Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Shop. This is going to be another guest episode. And if you are new around here, my name is Therese. I run Small Business Collaborative, where I help product-based business owners grow their wholesale. And today I am joined by Catherine from Moonshine Candle. And we are going to be talking about how Catherine has grown her wholesale. She makes beautiful candles. She has these really unique car scents that I'm sure she will share more about, and also really lovely soaps and stuff. They're really pretty, like minimal looking packaging, and she's based in the Scottish Isles. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Therese, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm Catherine and I run Moonshine Candle Co up in the very north of Scotland in the Orkney Islands. We're a design-led home fragrance brand with scents inspired by the wild beauty and calm moments of island living. I launched the business 5 years ago, originally making candles as something to do in lockdown, and in the past year or so have been growing into wholesale. Everything is made in small batches in my Orkney workshop, from hand-poured soy wax candles and wax melts to diffusers and organic soap bars.
And even the vessels I saw on Instagram. I didn't know you have vessels. That's amazing.
Yes, I love anything pumpkin, so I've been having great fun handcrafting those vessels.
They're so cute. And I love that I went to my local garden centers yesterday and everything was black and orange and red toned. But these ones we can kind of keep in a home where that doesn't necessarily fit in as well. So it's really nice. It's a nice take on it.
Yeah, the kind of neutral colors.
You've had a big year of growth with your wholesale. What do you think has made the biggest difference for you?
So one of the things that's made the biggest difference before I started reaching out was investing in branding. So I won a funding competition last year, which is kind of like the Scottish version of Dragon's Den. And I invested some of that into branding. And it really helped to sort of elevate my products, because I know that the quality of them are great, but just having the packaging that would help sell them in a competitive market and give me the confidence to then start reaching out to shops really helped. And then in terms of wholesale, it's really been a mixture of fair, of trade shows, of follow-ups, and just reaching out to people and being a bit more active in that.
Amazing. I love your new branding. It makes me want to visit. I'm going to butcher it, but like the Orkney Islands, it just looks so pretty and it goes so well together with it creates like a whole story the way you do it. So I really like it.
Thank you. That makes my heart happy because I know the scents and everything portray that. So having the packaging match was really the goal.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Is there any decisions or changes that you made this year that felt risky at the time, but has really paid off?
I think something that felt a bit risky was I invested in like my largest kind of amount of stock for my hand and body wash and lotions. I've actually got one here. It's such a competitive market that it's quite hard to stand out. So I really wanted something that was custom and a product that I would really love to have in my home, but you did have to order, I think, 5,000 of them. So it felt like a risk hitting order. And I thought that they might last for maybe like 2.5 years. But after 3 months, I was having to reorder them again and they've become a bestseller. So it definitely was a risk that's paid off.
That's amazing. Actually, bottles or I guess it's a bottle, because yours are like screen printed, aren't they? Or they're printed on the bottle.
Yeah.
And it comes with such high minimums. But it does make them look so professional. But
Thank you. It has been worth it.
that's so good to hear. And what has surprised you most about wholesale, growth, both good and bad, I suppose?
I think just that there's like no one way to do it, or there's no like secret way to do it. I think before I thought you had to go to trade shows, whereas now I've kind of realized there's so many other ways you can do it, knowing how to say the right things in emails, which I've learned through Sales Growth Lab, optimizing your SEO on Fair. There's lots of different ways and benefits from each of them.
Yeah. How many trade shows have you done? Is that something you've done a lot?
So my first one was Harrogate Home and Gift last July, and I would say that's where I gained the best insight into competitors and branding, and that's what made me really want to invest in the new packaging. And then I had the Scottish one in January, which was really good for me as a Scottish brand. And there's a lot of familiar faces there as well, which was nice. Then Home a Gift again this July, and it was nice I actually met some of my Fair customers in real life there as well. So that was really worthwhile. So yeah, just those so far.
And do you find, actually, this is not a question I prepared you for, so, but do you find that you are gaining more customers like outside of Scotland, I suppose, now that you have your new branding?
Yeah, for sure. I think at Harrogate last year, that's where I kind of realized I needed more than just my story and my sense, and the packaging needed to kind of be aligned with that. And ever since I've done that, it has really, really helped out with Scotland.
That's great. And one thing that I learned recently about you is we talked about this in the group that you are going away is it mid-November for 3 weeks or so? Like, how are you doing that? How are you making that possible? Because I think a lot of small brand owners are like, I can't take my busiest time off. And I think it's really brave to do that. But how are you preparing for that?
Yeah, so I'm going to Thailand, and it was a trip that 3 years ago I was supposed to go on. And I arrived there, and my grandma was actually in an accident. So after 24 hours there, I came back. So it's been a trip I've really wanted to go on since. And November, although not ideal as a business owner, was kind of the only time I could go, just with other life things going on. So it definitely felt like a risk going in my busiest month. But I kind of thought to myself, like, why do I run my business? I run it so that I don't have to ask for certain days off in the year, or when another employee's off, so you can't take that same day. So you kind of have to think why you do it. And then as well, like 3 weeks out of a whole year of hard work, if you set it up right, is it going to damage it too much, hopefully. And before I grew my wholesale, November would very much be rely on direct website sales, in-person markets. But when you've got a wholesale network that you've worked on all year, you can sort of prepare for that. So I'm just planned well in advance for Christmas. I'm sending out newsletters now to take orders. I'll be sending them reminders and just giving deadlines. So just being really communicative and working with stockists for it to work for both of us.
I love that. And it's one of the things I really enjoy with wholesale, that you can do that and it makes it possible because it doesn't require you necessarily, to be physically at the market or anything like that. So I'm sure you will have a great time. What kind of systems would you say you put in place to kind of help you get that freedom?
Just the relationships, I guess, that you build with the stockists throughout the year. And then newsletters. I didn't do wholesale newsletters until recently. So kind of growing that and a conversational tone. I think they have a bit more understanding. And then, yeah, just setting those deadlines in place and communicating with them through that will help.
Amazing. Actually, one thing I forgot that people are usually really interested in, like, how many stockists do you have? Like, where are you with your wholesale now?
I think I'm just above 60 something stockists now, and I maybe started with 30 or so at the beginning of the year, maybe less than that. And a lot of them were kind of more local or closer to me, but now it's a lot further, the reach as well.
That's brilliant. And your wholesale has grown so well. So it's so nice to see you. Amazing. What advice would you give someone? I think we already touched on this a little bit. Someone that maybe is listening and dreams of being able to take time off, but worried that their business will fall apart. Like, what advice would you give them?
Wholesale is definitely hard work, but it is well worth it. I think before I would really rely on, Instagram. How much I was posting on Instagram would reflect how I did that month. And then you've got to kind of rely on like algorithms and things like that. Whereas when you're in shops, even if you are on holiday or busy working on something else, your products are selling for you in the shops. So they're doing the hard work of selling them as well. So it is really worthwhile. Like in August, I was having what felt like quite a quiet month. And then all of a sudden, I got an influx of a lot of orders that made it one of my best months yet. So it's definitely, it just feels sustainable and it feels nice to have there as a structure. Yeah.
It's amazing. I think you will see as you kind of next year, you will have a better idea, I guess, what your wholesale year really looks like, what those peaks and drops are and stuff.
This year as well is like, I've kind of had to think of things well, like seasons in advance, because when I'm just direct to customer, you're kind of thinking of autumn in autumn, thinking of Christmas just before Christmas. But when someone asks you for a Christmas catalogue in January, it really kicks you into thinking ahead as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a benefit with wholesale actually that you can't be as last minute, and it's better. I think it removes a lot of stress actually to not be as last minute with it.
Yep,
And having to
definitely.
almost stick to a plan more as well.
Yep.
What has been the best way for you to build relationships with Stocky?
I think having more communication. So before this year in Sales Growth Lab, I was kind of scared to reach out to Stockists. So if they had ordered and I hadn't heard from them, I would maybe just assume things were going really badly and they hadn't sold anything. Whereas now I know that's not the case and I check in. So like I had somebody that ordered on Saturday and I checked in to see if everything had arrived okay, and they let me know that they'd already sold a few pieces already. So checking in and communicating with them and then seeing them at trade shows as well is really beneficial. Even if I had like a really quiet show, it's so beneficial just to see people face to face, existing stockists, especially when I live so far away up in Orkney. It's quite hard for me to just drop into shops. So seeing them face to face and keeping in touch on emails really helps.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite bit about wholesale is that you build kind of long-term relationships with stockists that you can get to know them a bit, and you can become friends and catch up at shows and go and have a drink or whatever it might be. But it just makes it less faceless.
I think the more you talk to them as well, the nicer and easier that relationship becomes, instead of just feeling like it's like a email into the void of like a scary stockist, when it's not like that at all.
Yeah, it makes it a lot less transactional. Whereas I think with social media, we have become so transactional.
Yeah.
One thing I loved, I was in France this summer and we went into some like nice, I was with my American friend and she wanted to buy, some European brands and, not necessarily designer, but, we went into these cute little like big fashion boutique. And it was just like shopping back in the day. Like they only had like one size out on the hanger and you had to chat with the person in the store and they would be like, oh, I don't have that, but I had this, so I brought you that. And it was just such I don't know, it just felt so nice. It was just enjoyable as an experience. And I think we lost that a little bit, actually. Has there been moments when wholesale felt hard or discouraging? And how, if so, did you keep going?
I think for sure, but now I've got a different mindset. Before I would maybe go and like I went and dropped off a sample to a farm shop and I never heard anything back. But then eventually, after seeing them at a show and then speaking to them, then I eventually got the order. Or I had a shop that I really wanted to get into and I emailed and I never heard anything back. And then I met the owners at a trade show, then followed up afterwards and they placed an order and they've told me that their customers are really loving the products and that they're going really well. So I think although it can feel discouraging if you don't hear back or don't see results immediately, it doesn't mean anything to be discouraged by. So that keeps me going, those little wins.
That's nice. It's just a buyer saying, yeah, I'm still interested, but can make all the difference. It can make your week, really.
Definitely.
And what's the best way for you to get reorders, do you think?
I think I've been quite lucky with my new packaging that the stockists that I've gotten, the products have been selling really well. So I've kind of naturally gotten reorders from that. And then sometimes, I guess, just like we said before, like communicating with stockists. Because if I hadn't heard from them and I thought it wasn't selling, sometimes when I get in touch with them, they're like, I'm so glad you messaged. We've been so busy. We've got none of your products left. And then that helps them to reorder. So just checking in, giving like POS as well with the orders. So little A5 strip cards, A6 with some information. I think that helps them to kind of maybe be encouraged to have a nicer display of the products and help them sell them.
I think a little thing like that can really help, buyers to not put everything in different places in their store and instead put it all together so it kind of tells a story, which I think always attracts shoppers more. And it's such a simple little thing, really, to create. It's not very expensive to do, I think.
Yeah, it is simple. And I've had sort of friends of friends say, oh, I saw your stuff in this farm shop and it was in a really nice display in a really good area. And they've like taken a photo of it and just some little cards. They do kind of catch your eye or make a difference.
That's nice. And what do you think is the next for you in terms of like product development and expansion for wholesale? Do you have any plans for next year?
Um, it's so hard as a business owner. You have so many different ideas, but sometimes you can't get carried away with all of them. I used to do a lot of different scents. So this year was kind of refining them, focusing on each one. So yes, I lots of ideas for next year. I might do some sort of occasion candles, like birthday, congrats, that kind of thing, because it's just something I've noticed in the market that's quite popular. So I'm just kind of trying to refine my many ideas at the moment for next year. I think one of the tricky things at this time of year is you're planning for Christmas, but you're also planning your products for the trade shows at the start of the year. So it's a busy
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to go to Scotland again?
Yes, I think the plan for next year is Scottish Trade Show and Spring Fair.
That'll be nice. Then we get to meet in person because I'm going to go to Scotland.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know if that's a secret now. I'm going to go to Scotland, so I'll be there. What's one thing that you wish you'd known about wholesale before you kind of went to your first show, perhaps?
For my first show, I think how important follow-ups are. I think my first show, I knew it would just be a learning experience in all sorts of ways, but I maybe didn't know how to follow up properly afterwards. But so much of the show is what you do after. So then at the Scottish Trade Show, I did a lot of following up after Harrogate this year, and it's where I've got some of my best stockists from. So I think that's probably something I wish I knew before, not to be scared to reach out to people.
Yeah, and I would say even the bigger the retailer, even independents, right? I find the less likely they are to order straight at a show. So, especially if they have
Yeah.
several shops or, they have really like a farm shop. Sometimes the buyer buys for so many different departments because they kind of become, some of them are like mini department stores, aren't they? So they can't just make decisions on the spot every time.
Yeah, I know they're always in a rush because they've got so many things to buy for. So yeah, definitely following that.
And what has helped you follow up? Because I think that's a lot of people. They think like, what do I even say? Like, what have you found helpful?
Usually I will write and like take their details and then I'll write a note of something to help me remember who it was. And then I'll remember like if it was the car perfumes they were interested in, or they mentioned that the mini candles would be great for people that are traveling, or a certain scent that they loved. Maybe it reminded them of Orkney, the sea salt scent, and they'd been before. So I usually will just say it was nice to meet them, and then I'll put in something personal that I remember that they liked, send the bestsellers, my catalogue, how to order, and some images as well.
That's nice. How has your confidence as a business owner shifted since you started to grow your wholesale?
Well, this year I have become limited. I've become VAT registered. I've taken on my first employee. So I think it gives you that kind of like quiet confidence of feeling a bit more like a proper business. And then it's kind of given me the stability of sales each month. I mean, you're still having to do things and working and outreaching. But it definitely, like I said, with the August being quiet and then pulling through, it definitely gives you that confidence that, as I said, your products are out there in the shops with people picking them up and smelling them and buying them. It definitely feels more secure.
I hear that quite a lot, that some people tell me that, when their friends and family starts finding your product in shops they go to, then they start taking you serious, and that changes their mindset around things as well.
Yeah, I've had people send me photos of my products in like a shop that they might think's really random in somewhere in a kind of random location. And they're like, "Oh, your product, did you know your products are in here?" I'm like, "Yes, I did. I sent it to myself."
Yeah, I guess like people don't know how business works sometimes.
Yeah, so it's nice when they see them out and about. It feels like you've got like a team of people rooting for you.
And if someone is listening and they feel stuck or like wholesale is too much work, what would you say to them?
I would say I kind of said touched on this before, but although does feel like work, it does really pay off to have your products out there as well. Like sometimes, kind of at the stage now where people are coming to me because they've seen my products in another shop, so it does sort of pick up from that and give you like credibility being in those shops. So it is hard work, but for me as well with candles, I think it's really valuable for people to pick up the products and smell them in the shops. And I've gotten a lot of like online sales and online customers a result of being in wholesale. So yeah, I would definitely just admit, and it does pay off. It's really worth it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think people often think that it's so time consuming and it takes a lot of work, but it is also like another marketing channel in a way. Of course, you want your stockists to do well with it, get repeat purchases, but it does inevitably also bring more attention to you as a brand.
Yeah, I think that's something that I didn't really think about when I was putting in the work to get into shops, all the different sort of benefits that have come from that. So it's been good.
What actually made you decide that you wanted to be in shops? Was that always something you wanted when you started your business, or was that kind of something that just happened?
Well, when I first started, it was in lockdown, so there was no shops open. And so it was kind of online, and obviously there's better margins on online, but I really wanted to be in like my local lovely gift shop. That was kind of a goal. And then when shops started to open and things, I started to grow into them, but it was still like online and wholesale. And then I kind of realized, this is a much more stable way to grow than just online, and you can reach a lot more customers that are just naturally coming into shops. And then when I went into some shops and farm shops in Scotland, there was kind of like 5 main big hitters in the candles and home fragrance brands, and a lot of them were island brands, but there was none for Orkney. So that was kind of my big motivation to be that Orkney brand on the shelves in these shops.
Nice. One thing I think about when I see a brand, it's quite nice. I'm guessing there's only so many creative jobs on an island like Orkney, like especially when you're young and like if you want to stay on the island, you don't want to go to one of the big cities. I guess you created your own kind of opportunity, which is really nice.
Yeah, well, I was living in Edinburgh and studying just before COVID, and I was working in PR. So I was ready to move down to London and work in PR. I thought there's no jobs for me in Orkney in that kind of industry. I never thought I'd live here. But then when I came here for lockdown and just had this like newfound appreciation for all the space and beauty we have here and started my candle business, I did kind of unknowingly end up creating that creative job for myself.
I think it's especially nice when it's kind of remote, like as in like in a not so highly populated area where there's not jobs like that normally, or as frequently, I should say. And now you get to employ someone too, which is even better.
Yes, it's great. It's lovely to have somebody in the workshop with me.
Yeah, that is really nice. One thing I am asking all business owners I speak to this season is, what has been your proudest moment so far in business?
I think it's really hard to pick one because there's so many different little proud moments in different categories. But I would say when you hear back from a stockist that you have really admired, or it's maybe taken you a year and some different methods to get into, when they've ordered and you've gotten in there, and then they email to reorder and they let you know the customers are hooked. Because sometimes you get kind of imposter syndrome of like, I know my products, I love my products, but when they're in the shops, for people that don't know you or don't know your story, to be buying them, it's just like a nice sense of achievement.
Yeah, it's nice to see strangers pick up your thing. Even like the experience of being in the shop when someone like picks up something that you made, that must be amazing.
Definitely. And my mum's done that before, and then she's like, that was trying to, my daughter makes sense. So that must be her proud moment.
Yeah, I bet she's super proud. That's so nice. And I'm sure she's really happy because they're on the island too, right? So maybe they didn't expect to have you stay there.
Definitely not. I started making them in her kitchen, and I think it got a bit chaotic with wax. But she gets some nice candle freebies, so and she's happy.
Yeah. Oh, I bet her house basically always smells nice.
Yes.
If people who are listening wants to find you and, whether they want a candle or a new hand soap, where could they find you?
So my website is moonshinecandleco.com, and Instagram is moonshinecandle_co. And we're also on Fair for some.
Yes, we'll add your Fair direct link to the show notes if you're interested to buy from Catherine on there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for sharing your story. And I hope that you have an amazing time when you go to Thailand later in the year. I'm sure we'll talk before then, but I think you're going to have a great time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to everyone's stories on the podcast. So it's been lovely to chat.
I wanted to just take a moment to say I'm hosting a free workshop on Wednesday, the 24th of September at 11 a.m. UK time called Cracking Christmas. It will be all about creating your sales plan for the final quarter of the year so that you can really smash your wholesale. And if you are interested in the program that Catherine is on, that she was speaking about, that will open straight after that workshop. So those in the workshop will get first access, and then it will open up to everyone else on the 25th. So I'll pop all those links in the show notes as well, and I would love to help you with your wholesale this year and beyond. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.